Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Robert Allen, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Sergeant Jeanette McNeely. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Norman Roland Siviour. Norman Siviour was born on the 25th of August 1897 in Red Hill, South Australia, one of 14 children born to farmer Richard Siviour and his wife Clementine. Norman received his education at Stokes Public School and spent most of his life in the town of Cummins on the Eyre Peninsula. At the outbreak of the First World War in 1914, he was working alongside his father as a farmer. Norman Siviour enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 22nd of February 1916. He was assigned to reinforcements of the 48th Battalion and began a short period of training in Australia. He embarked for active service in July, sailing from Adelaide on board the troop ship Siang B. After several weeks at sea, Private Siviour arrived at Plymouth, England, in early August. He proceeded to a nearby camp where he continued training alongside other new recruits. On Boxing Day 1916, he embarked for the Western Front, just in time to spend a bitterly cold winter behind the lines. Siviour joined his unit in February of 1917, just as the German forces began their strategic withdrawal to the fortified Hindenburg Line. Allied units eagerly followed the enemy's retreat, believing the war was perhaps finally drawing to a close. It was not long, however, until their withdrawal halted at the enemy's new front line near the French village of Bullecourt. Here, the Allies planned to mount an attack to break through the German lines and capture the village. Siviour's unit attacked on the morning of the 11th of April 1917, gaining cover from tanks rather than artillery. As the men jumped over the parapet, the tanks quickly proved ineffective and the attacking infantry were left exposed to murderous enemy fire. One of Siviour's comrades described the attack, writing in a letter home, "I tell you, it was hell let loose on that day. Our guns opened fire at 4 a.m. and the air seemed to be on fire with shells screeching over us. Of course, Fritz took a tumble that we were going to attack and opened fire in return, and it was awful. When we hopped out of the machine guns, the rifles tore into us. Men were dropping all around, and when the officers saw the state of things, they ordered us to drop down and hide in what was left into shell holes and keep low. My mate had a bullet right through his ribs, and another poor fellow who made an attempt to go back to the trenches was shot dead." Soon forced to retreat, Allied units suffered more than 3,000 casualties in one day. The battalion's commanding officer noted in the unit's war diary, "Had the tanks shown more pluck and initiative, I believe things would have been quite different. No words of mine can express the pride and admiration I feel for these brave men." Although thousands were dead, it was Private Norman Siviour who was never seen again. With no known grave, his family paid tribute to him in a poem placed in the Express and the Telegraph newspaper. It reads, "He was only a private in battle, just a step of the great rank and file, yet the sad hearts at home still remember the day he left with a smile." Private Norman Siviour was only 19 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst more than 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Norman Roland Siviour, who gave his life for us, for our freedom, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.